Welcome to Lavender Town Radio, where shadows whisper and every story hides a darker truth. Tonight, let me take you deeper into the world of Pokémon you were never meant to see. My name is Elesa. In Nimbasa, I live in the spotlight. My life is a series of calculated moments. The perfect smile for the camera, the confident wave on the runway, and the decisive throw of a Pokeball in a gym battle. I am an icon, a beacon. People come to me for autographs, for photos, for a little bit of sparkle in their lives. I have never been asked to join a search party until I met Leo. It was a Thursday afternoon. I had just finished a photo shoot and was walking through the Central Plaza, surrounded by my team of assistants and security. And then, a small boy, maybe 8 years old, did what no paparazzo had ever managed. He slipped through the security cordon. He wasn't holding a camera or an autograph book. He just stood there, blocking my path with wide, serious eyes and a determination that made me stop. "Miss Elesa," he said, his voice clear and unwavering. "I need to hire you." The crowd fell silent. One of my bodyguards moved forward, but I held up a hand to stop him. There was a certain humor to the situation. "Hire me?" I smiled. "Kid, I'm not a private detective." "But you're a hero," he replied flatly, as if it were an indisputable fact. "Everyone says you protect the city. You fight the bad guys. My dad is missing, and the police, they aren't listening." The humor vanished, replaced by a sense of weight. I gestured for my team to step back and knelt down to the boy's eye level. "What's your name?" "Leo. My dad is Professor Thorn." The name was familiar. Eris Thorn, a renowned archaeologist, once a lecturer in Castelia. "Where did your father go, Leo?" "He went to the desert resort. He and his team found something new, an undiscovered tomb. He's been gone for 10 days. He always calls every 3 days, but this time, just silence." He was right. The police had dismissed his concerns, chalking it up to a sandstorm delay or faulty equipment. But 10 days was too long. I looked into Leo's eyes. I didn't see a child with an overactive imagination. I saw absolute trust, a belief that I, Elesa of the fashion runway, could solve this. And in that moment, I realized that being a beacon means you have to shine when someone is lost in the dark. "All right, Leo, I'll help you find your dad." The boy didn't want an autograph. He wanted me to find his missing father, and he led me straight into a nightmare. I didn't intend to bring Leo with me, but he was adamant. "He's my dad. I'm going." There was a strength in his stubbornness I couldn't refuse. I made a few calls to people in power, arranged for a helicopter. 2 hours later, we were flying over the endless golden dunes of the desert resort. We found the research camp easily. The white tent stood out against the sand. But as we landed, a strange silence enveloped us. No sound of people talking, no hum of machinery, just the whistle of the wind over the dunes. The camp was like a ghost ship. The campfire was cold, but a pot of coffee was still warm on the grill. A laptop was open, its screen displaying geological data, but there wasn't a single person in sight. "Dad," Leo called out, his voice sounding small in the vast emptiness. At the center of the camp was a large pit leading down a set of stone stairs, the entrance to the tomb. A cold, stale air wafted up from it. I pulled out a Pokeball. "Zebstrika, let's go!" My electric zebra Pokemon appeared, blue sparks crackling across its coat. "Stay close to me, Leo," I said, and we began our descent. The tomb wasn't dark. Strange, glowing gems embedded in the walls cast a pale, ghostly yellow light. And in the main chamber, we found them. The entire archaeological team, about 6 people, was there. They weren't dead. They weren't tied up. They were simply existing. Some were sitting against the walls, others stood motionless in the middle of the room. Their eyes were wide open, staring at nothing. They were breathing, but that was all. They were like living wax statues. "Dad!" Leo yelled and ran to a man with graying hair who was staring intently at a carved wall. He hugged the man's legs, but the man didn't react. He didn't blink. He didn't move. In the center of the room, standing like a royal guard, was it. A sarcophagus of gold and blue, with 4 ghostly arms, a Cofagrigus. It was perfectly still, looking like part of the tomb itself, but I could feel a cold energy radiating from it. "We found them, alive but not living, and the Pokémon guarding them just silently watched. I tried everything, shaking their shoulders, shouting in their ears. Zebstrika tried a light jolt of electricity. Nothing. They were like shells that had been emptied of their spirits." Leo was sobbing next to his soulless father. I knew I was in over my head. This wasn't a team plasma kidnapping. This was something ancient and wrong. I pulled out my X-transceiver, using a secure channel reserved for gym leaders and the Elite Four. "I need Chantal," I told the operator, "immediately." She arrived a few hours later. Chantal, the novelist of horror and member of the Elite Four, appeared at the tomb entrance like an apparition, her chandelier floating beside her. She showed no surprise at the scene. She looked at the empty bodies with a scholar's interest. "Fascinating," she whispered, walking around one of the researchers. "No signs of possession, no life force depletion." She looked at the Cofagrigus. "There's our culprit, but it is no ordinary predator." "Can you do something?" I asked, hopeful. Chantal turned to me, and in her eyes I saw a cold truth. "Miss Elesa, you are asking me if I can heal a corpse. The answer is no." "But they're breathing," I protested. "Their bodies are," she explained, "but they are no longer here. The curse of this ancient type of Cofagrigus doesn't turn its victims into mummies. It is far more cruelly sophisticated. It is a jailer. It siphons the souls of intruders and imprisons them forever within a pocket dimension. A gilded, golden sarcophagus. There, they are fully conscious, fully aware, and they are forced to watch the real world through their body's eyes, witnessing its slow decay, powerless to do anything." The horror of her explanation almost made me buckle. They were being buried alive inside their own bodies. "His body was just a shell, but when his son cried, it moved, not by will, but by memory." Leo had heard everything. He stared at his father, his eyes welling up with tears. "So, Dad is still in there?" he asked Chantal, his voice trembling. "Can he hear me?" "Perhaps," Chantal said softly, "but he cannot answer." Leo refused to accept it. He took his unresponsive father's hand. "Dad, it's me, Leo. I came to take you home. I got Miss Issa to help. She's a hero, you know." He kept talking, his small voice the only living sound in the silent tomb. He told his father about a Pokémon match he'd watched, about a test he'd done well on at school. And then the impossible happened. The shell of Professor Thorne, which had been motionless for hours, moved. Slowly, stiffly, his right arm raised. It wasn't a conscious act. It was more like a reflex, a muscle memory triggered by the sound of his son's voice. His finger pointed to a tablet lying on the floor near his feet. I rushed to pick it up. It still had power. The screen showed a research journal entry. I began to read it aloud. Day 7. It's unbelievable. This Cofagrigus doesn't seem to be a creature, but a mechanism, a psychic security system. Miller fell this morning, just dropped. Eyes open, but nobody home. Day 8. Tanaka and Reed are gone now too. We tried to capture it. Useless. Physical attacks do nothing. Energy attacks as well. It's not a physical entity in the normal sense. It's a gateway. Day 9. I am the only one left. I can feel it pulling. A cold sensation starting at the back of my head. It doesn't hurt. It just feels empty. I am writing these last lines. My shell will soon belong to it. But maybe an echo will remain. One last act for my son. Leo, I love you. Never stop believing in heroes. As I read the last line, Leo broke down into racking sobs. Dad! His emotional outburst seemed to shake the very air in the tomb, and the Cofagrigus, which had been still as a statue, moved. It opened. Its faceplate split apart, revealing not a face, but a deep vortex of golden light and shadow, a gateway, and it was aimed directly at Leo. To save his son, I had to fight a ghost I couldn't beat, and I had to watch a father make the ultimate sacrifice. It wants a new soul, Chantal shouted. It's drawn to strong emotion. An invisible force grabbed Leo, beginning to pull him towards the open sarcophagus. No, I yelled. Zibstrika, wild charge. Chandelure, shadow ball, Chantal commanded. Our Pokemon's powerful attacks flew towards the Cofagrigus, but they simply passed right through it, as if it wasn't there. It's no use, Chantal said. It's not entirely in our dimension. Leo was being dragged, his small feet sliding on the stone floor. I tried to grab him, but I felt a cold pull on my own spirit. We were losing, but then something miraculous and horrifying happened. The shell of Professor Thorne, motivated by one final echo of fatherly love, moved again. It wasn't fast. It was a single, shambling, mechanical step, but it was in the right direction. He lurched forward, placing himself directly between Leo and the Cofagrigus. He made himself the target. The Cofagrigus, with the simple logic of an ancient mechanism, accepted the closest obstacle. The pull shifted from Leo to his father, but there was no soul left to take. Instead of being pulled in, the shell of Professor Thorne simply collapsed, like a marionette with its strings cut. The final autonomic biological processes ceased. It fell to the floor with a heavy, empty thud. The connection was severed. The golden gateway on the Cofagrigus' face slammed shut. It became a silent sarcophagus once more. Leo was free. He fell into my arms trembling. He was safe, but he had just had to watch his father die a second time. There was no victory, only survivors. And sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is stay with them after the battle is over. There was no victory in that tomb, only silence and empty bodies. We left, leaving the researchers to their eternal comas. Chantal sealed the tomb, saying that some doors are best left permanently closed. It was a tragic ending, an unsolvable tragedy. But my story with Leo was just beginning. I couldn't save his father, but I could save him. I brought Leo back to Nimbasa with me. I became his legal guardian. The first few months were hard. Leo was haunted by nightmares. He was quiet, and sometimes I would find him staring into space, as if trying to peer into another dimension. But I was there. I was no longer Elesa of the runway. I was Elesa of bedtime stories, of late breakfasts, and of tight hugs when the nightmares came. I got him into therapy. I introduced him to my Pokémon, not as battlers, but as friends. My Emolga would make him laugh with its playful antics. My Flaffy would curl up with him when he was sad. Slowly, so slowly, he began to heal. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the day we left that tomb. We are on the Nimbasa Ferris wheel, looking down at the city glittering with lights below. "Miss Elesa," Leo said, his voice stronger now. "My dad was right. You are a hero." "No, Leo," I said, squeezing his hand. "A hero would have saved everyone. I couldn't." He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw a wisdom far beyond his years. "But you saved me, and you stayed." And in that moment, under the lights of my city, I understood. Maybe being a beacon isn't just about shining brightly. It's about staying there, steady, even after the storm has passed, to guide the ships that are still trying to find their way home. It was a happy ending. Not a perfect one, not one without scars, but it was an ending of hope. And sometimes that's the only thing we have. The signal fades, but the darkness lingers. This was Lavender Town Radio. Return, if you dare, because the next story